Hey everybody, today we have an amazing, elegant, gorgeous, plant-based queen, many of your favorite YouTuber. She has been around forever. She is a goddess. We all love her so much. We are honored to have Chef AJ on the channel. I think she's been vegan for over 40 years, plant-based almost 50 years, and she's transformed the lives of so many people around the globe and so many of you guys watching. And we have so much to talk to her about today. So it's such an honor. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me. 47 years, baby.
Wow, unbelievable. And you are looking incredible. So I want to ask, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm good. Thank you. I think I've been vegan longer than you've been alive.
Wow, yeah, I'm 42. So you've been,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
no way. So I want to ask you too, because I don't really know what. So I think when you went vegan, you lost 50 to 100 pounds, right? So
Well,
what
actually,
initially led you to go vegan? And like, what was
yeah.
the story there?
So actually going vegan, believe it or not, didn't cause me to lose any weight because I was a junk food vegan at first. It wasn't until I really, went whole food plant-based, more Dr. Goldhammer SOS free, which was about, let's see how many years ago, 13 years ago now that I lost the weight and kept it off. So I went vegan at the age of 17 on September 1st, 1977. I was a freshman at the University of Pennsylvania. I always joke that I was studying to be a veterinarian and instead I became a vegetarian because they made you back then. They didn't have Dr. Neil Barnard or PCRM to defend your rights. And if you wanted to get into those sciences, you had to do vivisection, animal research. And I had to cut the head off a live salamander. And I did it once. And I said, I'm not doing this again. And I literally became an instant ethical vegan in that moment.
Wow, I didn't know that. Unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
at that age, so rare back then at that age to go vegan, right? I'm sure it was not a big thing back then.
Well, yeah, I didn't even know the word vegan back then. We just called it vegetarian. That I don't know when I know it was founded by I think it was Donald Watson November 1st in some year, but I didn't have a word for vegan. And it's so funny because when people say it's so hard to be vegan, it's never been easier in human history to be vegan now, especially if you're not a whole food plant-based vegan. I mean, they have analogs for every kind of meat and cheese and you name it, and they can do it vegan. But back then it was either you eat whole foods or there were no processed foods, with the exception in the Seventh-day Adventist community, in their bookstores of their churches, they would sell these canned meats called, I think it's called Worthington, very high in fat and oil. Other than that, we didn't have, I don't even think they had soy milk powder back then. I mean, there was nothing in 1977, nothing.
Wow. And you
Yeah.
did it. And then, so when you went like more whole foods and you had the weight loss and all that, did you notice more changes then? Like more
Oh my
internal
God.
and external
Oh yeah,
changes?
well, for sure, because here's the thing. When you become a junk food vegan, really all you're doing is removing animal products because I wasn't just eating animal products. As a matter of fact, I really didn't eat that many animal products. You see, we grew up, I was raised Orthodox Jewish. And so it's like, how many animal products were we even eating? I mean, you wiped out almost the entire seafood kingdom, right? Because when you keep kosher, you don't eat clams or oysters or crabs or shrimp or, any of those. I mean, I guess there's certain fishes you can eat, and there's so many meats you can't eat when you're kosher, like pig, for example. So all the pork is wiped out. And even when you can eat meat, there's only certain cuts of the cow you can eat. So it wasn't like there was that many animal products. And plus you couldn't combine milk and meat. There's a whole thing in Jewish, you don't cook a calf in their mother's milk. So we couldn't have like cheeseburgers or pepperoni pizza. So it wasn't like there was that many animal products anyway. And luckily I didn't even like them all that much. I remember fighting with my grandfather for the end of like when my mom would make like a brisket or a roast, like there were two end pieces that were burned beyond recognition, where you didn't have to see like the red blood, and that would be the piece I would eat. But I really never liked it. And so I don't really understand what all the hullabaloo is about animal products. I get like when you ask people to give up like the junk food, like to me, like that was delicious, but just animal products by themselves without seasoning, they don't taste very good. That's why vegan sushi is my favorite food in the whole world. But like, why would they want the fish? The fish part tastes like nothing, you know?
Yeah.
It's the wasabi, it's the ginger, it's all the seasonings that make animal products or anything delicious. Without the plants, the ketchup and the mustard and the pickle and the relish and the onion and the tomato and probably the bread. I mean, I just can't imagine why people love animal products so much. And so just omitting animal products wasn't enough to propel me to health or definitely to weight loss because all the other junk I was eating was kept in, which was whatever it was, we grew up, every processed cereal that they had, in the 60s was on our shelves, Fruity Pebbles, Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, mainly because, I loved the little prizes that were inside. So there was a lot of processed food, and a lot of it is vegan then and now. Like soda's vegan. And so when you're having that and high calorie density food and processed foods, you're not necessarily going to be any healthier, but it's still a better choice. I would rather have somebody be a junk food vegan than,
Yeah.
yeah.
And even like, I grew up with all those cereals and stuff too. But I just have to say, like, as somebody who has two young kids now, and obviously we're around in this day and age now, like the world's even crazier now, don't you think? Like the fast
Oh,
food and the food options are like completely just it's almost scary for the next generation.
well, what's also scary, Jillian, isn't just the prevalence of them, but the location. So when I grew up, you could not eat food during school. Like we had breaks. They were called nutrition or recess or lunch. But now it's like 24/7 where you can eat food. It is available everywhere. And so they'll like this is funny. And I said to you before we logged on, I said, make sure I tell you about the story about what happened at the hospital when I was recently there. So at the Cancer Infusion Center of the hospital, I'm not getting any treatment right now, but I went there because the appointments I have with the psychology person, the social worker, it's the same place. And while I was waiting, I just noticed they had this vending machine. And I went over and took a picture of it. And it was just your typical vending machine with every kind of chip and Dorito and M&Ms and stuff. And so I actually took a picture of it and I posted it on social media and I tagged the hospital, which is called Sutter Roseville. And I said, you need to do better for your cancer patients. And within 2 days, I got a response that this was going to the CEO and I was invited to be part of their patient advisory committee to try to get healthier options. And so the idea is it's not that like I'm trying to outlaw junk food. I'm just trying to get healthy food as an option as well, right?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to tell people what to do, but like growing up, we didn't have M&Ms sold at Petco. Like I have never understood why candy is sold at a pet store because dogs can't eat it. It's sold at Joann's Fabrics. It's everywhere you go. It's really, when I grew up, these things were more treats. Like we had soda growing up, but it was in a little Dixie cup, like at a birthday party. There wasn't like 256 ounce or whatever size Big Gulp there was. So it's not just the prevalence, but the locations where they didn't used to exist before.
Yeah, well, who knows how you can bring awareness to all this and change all of this? Because now that you bring that, I saw that picture. So I'll put that on the screen or already on the screen before. And I was just like, this is crazy. And I saw that myself. I was at the hospital with a family member a few weeks ago and I see the vending machines. It's the same thing. And then my family member had to go in ICU for a few days. They were like, we cannot let him go. His heart is so bad. Like they were worried about a life or death situation. And the food even given to him in that situation was like this cheese croissant and just the worst food you've ever seen. And I kept it. So actually, I think this was 2 months ago. I kept it in a sealed container in my cupboard. And I opened it the other day. It hasn't deteriorated at all. Just like when you see those McDonald's meals after like 16 years and they don't break down. So real foods, whole foods break down, right? That's the kind of foods we want to feed our gut, feed our body, feed our mind.
Absolutely. And, when there have been times that I've been brought into hospitals to try to improve some of the things on the menu, which are very usually high in sodium and things like that. And when I've talked to them, they say the reason the food exists is because they don't want to get a bad review because when you're in the hospital, you get a review and they don't want to get bad reviews. And so they give the patients what they want. But since the patients are so disconnected that what they, eat has anything to do with their health anyway. So, I think they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. So my philosophy is yes, if serve that stuff to the people that wants it, but also have healthier options available. So I was in the hospital for lung biopsy. And because I was given a pneumothorax, my lung got punctured. I wasn't able to go home immediately. I had to stay about an additional 9 hours for observations until they were sure that it wasn't going to get any worse and if I would need a chest tube. And so because of that, I couldn't have any food. So here I am like 24 hours without food and I'm okay. But at the time they said, okay, your pneumothorax is stable. You can go home. Now we can give you something to eat. Would you like something to eat? I go, yeah, I'm starving. They go, okay, well, we have a turkey sandwich. And I said, well, but I'm vegan. And they said, well, you could take the bread off. I said, but I have to be gluten free. And they go, oh, okay. Well, do you want some pudding? And I'm like, well, I'm actually allergic to milk and I prefer not to eat sugar. Okay, well, do you want some Jello? And I go, again, I'm vegan and Jello's not vegan. And I generally don't eat like red dye and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
like
how
come
about a
on.
popsicle? They wanted to give me a popsicle. And I'm like, well, again, that's sugar and red dye. Well, you can have a sugar-free popsicle. And so they said, look, the only other thing we can offer you are some crackers. And I'm like, well, are they gluten-free? No. And so I said, do you have like an apple or a banana or some carrots? Oh, no, we don't have any produce. And so I went back to the, and isn't that crazy? They don't have any food at the hospital. So I went back to the cafeteria a week later when I had to be at the hospital, and they did have fruits and vegetables in the cafeteria. Not really necessarily the way I would like them. The vegetables were cooked in oil, but they did have a small salad bar and they did have fruit, for sale. And I'm thinking, well, it's there. Why couldn't you give it to the patient then, So I don't know. There
It's
hasn't
just
been a lot of progress, has there?
no, it's like the Twilight Zone out there. It's just wild. And hopefully, I hope to see a change in the future. And okay, so just for anybody who's watching who doesn't know, I mean, I'm sure with the title, or I'm sure most people watching, they know you. You
Oh,
were
yeah.
diagnosed with stage 3
Yeah.
lung C word. I don't know if we
Yeah.
want to say it or put it out there, just something
Yep.
that's hitting a lot of people. And so, yeah, I just want to ask truly how you're doing. And I am just so glad that you decided to share this with everybody because I know in our
Yeah.
niche, in the health niche, in the vegan community, we kind of just feel this obligation to be perfect. And I just really commend you. I really honor you. I think you did an amazing thing by just coming out, being honest. And I can feel the love towards
Oh,
you. I'm
thank you.
sure you can feel it.
Yeah.
And I'm just so happy that there's just so much love going towards you.
Yes, thank you. It made all the difference in the world. And it wasn't a decision I made easily, Jillian. I thought about it for over 2 years, and I had the guidance of people like Dr. Doug Lisle and Dr. Ellen Goldhammer, and Dr. John McDougall is saying, don't alarm people because when it was stage 1 and very small, I mean, not that it wasn't really as sensational as a story, if you will. And also because it appeared to be very, very slow growing. And it's like just to tell people and have them worry, especially when I wasn't
Mhm.
going to do anything. But then when it did jump stages that quickly and have a met, and I knew that I was going to maybe be taking some time off because I mean, whether I get treatment or not, I kind of want to take a little time off. I've been working pretty hard doing a live
Mhm.
show every day for over 4 years. It immediately after doing that live with Dr. Matt Letterman. And it's so funny because, even my best lives were with Dr. John McDougall. He would get like 400 to 600 people watching. Usually I get, a couple of hundred. I mean, 1,600 people. I've never had 1,600 people care about what I'm doing. So apparently, I think maybe either the fact that I was authentic or just the fact that cancer does strike a nerve. And I don't mind saying it because, listen, everybody's touched by it. Even if you personally haven't had it, I don't know anybody that doesn't have a friend or a family member that has it or has had it.
Mhm.
And it's incredible how many people are writing me now with it. And we're talking about survivors because obviously if they're dead, they're not going to be writing me to be
Yeah.
on my show. But that's why it's really caused me to have a renewed interest in my work because I was just I was kind of coasting along, just doing what I'm doing, and I'm not at a certain point. How many times can you just teach a weight loss class or just do a recipe? And all those things are wonderful and they're nice, but I feel like I have a real opportunity now to help people and get the information out there. Because for a year and a half, I didn't even have an oncologist. That's how long it took to get one. So none of the supportive services that are recommended to cancer patients, even ones not getting treatment, just like a support group or, were offered to me. And I know now that there were places I could have gone that I didn't know about. And I'm going to be doing, a month worth of shows called Thriving in the Face of Cancer, where I not just interview some of these doctors and some of these services that some people may not know about, but also interview survivors because, it's funny because with lung cancer, it's interesting because even at the very beginning, when I told very few people, just a couple of really close friends, but when people found out, you know what the first thing everybody asked was, can you guess?
Did you smoke?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and this is exactly the problem because people don't realize that, yes, of course, that smoking can cause lung cancer, but there are people that smoke their whole life that don't get it. They don't
Mhm.
realize how many people are out there and young people. See, I'm 65, I'm an old lady, but I'm talking about young people that are diagnosed every day with lung cancer that never smoked. And lung cancer doesn't get the attention that breast cancer does or pancreatic cancer does because there's a stigma attached to it because in some cases you caused it, you did this. But think about it. Colon cancer, we know that eating processed meats like bacon increases your incidence to colon cancer. So do we then not help the people because it's their fault? Do we say to everybody that has colon cancer, did you eat bacon? And
Mhm.
so I found that really interesting. And so what I'm trying to do now is raise awareness that you don't just get lung cancer because you smoked. And also, it was, I'm looking at this diagnosis. It's not a death sentence, although it
Yeah,
could be at some point, but it's just a wake up call and a slap in the face because I don't want, I really try to be a good person and kind, but I feel like that, I spent a lot of my life being a little bit holier than thou as a vegan, and not outwardly necessarily treating or admonishing people, but thinking like, well, if you just ate better, well, eating better is fantastic. I recommend it for so many reasons. If for no other reasons, you get to look a little bit better at your age than you might if you didn't. And, you have clear skin and clear thinking, but it's not a panacea for everything. And the reality is that this is what Dr. Simran Malhotra has said to me, and she's a cancer previvor, that the diet that we recommend, whole food plant-based, whether it's raw or cooked, but minimal processing, little or no sugar and salt, and preferably no oil. This is a seat belt, but you can still wear your seatbelt and get into a pretty bad car accident. And so the people,
yeah,
people are like, how can, well, what hope is there for me? She did it, genetics loads the gun. Lifestyle and diet pull the trigger. But this is what I want people to understand. That trigger is going to get pulled all day, once someday for all of us.
exactly.
It's going to
Yeah,
get, and so whether, you can't really outlive your genetic potential, but you can live very well and having dietary excellence, it just makes you live better. It doesn't always necessarily mean you live longer or don't get diagnosed with a disease. And who knows if my diet didn't protect me from getting something sooner or worse, or maybe
exactly.
yeah, so there's just so many unknowns, but I'm not abandoning my diet, like because okay, well this didn't work for me, so I'm going to eat whatever crap I want. And I
Hmm.
think it's partly because that I've eaten so well for so long, it's my preferred way of eating. Now that said, I have I've loosened the screws a little bit. And by that, what I mean is I don't eat animal products. Okay, like to give you an example. So my brother-in-law was in town and he treated us to Pressed Juicery. This is where they have the
Hmm.
freeze saucer. It's vegan, it's date sweet, and it has a tiny bit of salt. And for the holidays, they have crushed peppermint. I am sure those have sugar in them, right? But I had it, and it's like, oh, Chef AJ eats sugar. No, she doesn't eat sugar. It was like
Yeah,
a condiment, and I don't eat it every day. But I feel like that sometimes the dietary perfection, the way that people strive for like not just excellence, but perfection, can mentally make
drive you
you
crazy. It's a bit much, right? Yeah.
yeah. And I think that can be worse for you than actually eating the sugar. And not to tell you that you should eat sugar or you need to eat sugar, but I kind of want to knock myself off this pedestal that people put me on, like with Dr. Goldhammer. I never deserved to be there. And I was doing that not because I believed that this was going to make it so that I would never have a disease. It just happened that the diet that Dr. Goldhammer recommends, which is SOS free, sugar, oil, salt free, was really unparalleled for weight loss for me. Because I found, as somebody that was overweight or obese most of my life, that having things like sugar and salt that were always stimulating my palate and causing me to overeat made it more difficult to lose weight. But it wasn't like, I was doing this like for like to have the perfect health, in other words.
Hmm. And good for you, like still staying health conscious though and staying really on track because I can see in a way how maybe something like this would just be like, wow, I do all the right things and then this happens. Like, screw it. I'm going to Italy. I'm going to drink wine every day. I'm going to eat cake. I'm going to eat pizza, like whatever, right? So
Yeah.
good for you for like not because I think, in our type of shoes, taking care of ourselves like this and this happens. And I used to kind of be like that too, I think, holier than thou. And maybe like like, did you ever think like, oh, something like this could never happen to you? I think in my first few years vegan, I thought I'll never get cancer. I could never get this, could get that. But now my views on all that have like
Yeah.
totally humbled and totally changed. Was that kind of
Yeah.
your experience? And when you
Well,
got the diagnosis, were you just like, Oh, like,
Honestly,
wow.
I didn't believe the diagnosis for 2 years, and until I had the lung biopsy, because there's a saying in medicine, no meat, no treat, meaning until they have that actual tissue, nobody can really say that you have cancer. So I kind of was in like la la land, like, maybe it's like I'm just gonna like I'm just not gonna think about it. It's gonna go away, and it didn't. And so, at first I thought I was very surprised that it was lung. I mean, all the problems that I've had in my life were more like down there, stomach, female stuff. And I always thought, well, I can't, But here's the thing, 5 first-degree family members had cancer and died from it, and people forget that family history is pretty
True.
important, and, father, brother, uncle, grandfather. Who was the fifth? Well, those are the ones I remember right now. There must have been some cousins in there too. So yeah, I remember thinking, well, no, I can eat anything I want. But the thing is I didn't want anything. I mean, it was like,
Mm,
because if I don't eat the way that I normally eat, then I just don't feel my best. I don't poop, for example. But what I did is I cut myself some slack and some grace to have, like, for example, when I have vegan sushi, there's ginger and there's probably sugar. And I mean, how much ginger am I eating once a week? Little things like that. Like, so again, aiming for dietary excellence rather than perfection, and also because I had lost so much weight, not because of cancer, but because of going to True North and doing water fasts and being so
yeah.
anxious from I mean, actually, I need to eat things, or I mean, I don't need to, but I want to eat things that are a little bit more calorically dense now so that
Mhm.
so that I could put on the 10 pounds that I needed to gain and actually maintain it. So things like the occasional piece of gluten-free bread on a sandwich, which I never would have had before, or having dried snacks. And by dried snacks, I mean like granola. That it's actually raw. You can make it now with the sprouted oats and dates and things that are maybe a little bit more calorically dense. But part of me does think about sometimes, like, if I knew for sure, like, I was going to die really soon, like, would I cave to the crave and maybe have something, like a Coke Slurpee just for old time's sakes. But
Yeah.
but I'm not anywhere near there now. And I do enjoy my food that I eat, my regular food so much. And
Because
that's
you
why,
know how it is to feel that good. I know exactly
yeah,
what you mean. And how, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, I agree with you. And that's why people do it. That's why you do what you do is it makes you look and feel your best.
And how has your breathing been? Like, how have your lungs felt over the last few years? Did you notice symptoms at first? Like you
No,
feel like you're shallow breathing or anything? Or your lungs felt good, like your breathing felt good.
so because I've always been asthmatic and in a
Mm,
couple of years ago diagnosed with mild COPD, I never paid attention to my breathing. It got a little bit wonky after the biopsy having a pneumothorax, at least when I was taking a deep breath. But because I'm such a highly anxious person, I'm often doing this anyway in life. So I'm like, well, is it asthma? Is it anxiety? Or is it cancer? I don't know. So it's having anxiety and cancer is harder than just having cancer, I think. But
yeah.
that's what I'm really doing now is working on ways to just manage my anxiety. And it's actually helpful when one of the sessions with Dr. Lyle, he says it's never going to go away. But for the first time in your life, your anxiety is actually appropriate to what's happening. So that made me feel a lot better. So I'm getting into other things. And this is the thing about our plant, not our plant-based community, meaning yours and I's, but a lot of times the plant-based community at large is that they focus so much on the food that they don't focus on anything else. And even in lifestyle medicine, there's like 6 pillars. It's not just the food. And while my hero and mentor, Dr. McDougall, had a phrase, it's the food, and I have that t-shirt, it is the food, but it's not just the food. And so I'm really getting into some of the other aspects of healing, which is like the mind-body connection, the spiritual stuff, nobody
Mm,
really talks about that. I mean, Dean Ornish a little bit, yeah, and some of the Seventh-day Adventist doctors, but for the most part, it's just the food, the food, the food, the food. But what if you're like me and you did the food and you still got diagnosed? There's got to be some other things that people can do than
yeah,
just
the
the food.
other things are almost more important, I think. The proper sleep and the internal, like, I know that I've been bad for this, especially the last few years through some serious traumas and through some crazy things, like holding on to things inside and like not letting go and not forgiving people. I think these things are even heavier no matter how we're eating versus maybe if we're not eating clean, but we're just the most forgiving, loving person ever. I think those things, the stress, the anxiety, not getting proper exercise, not sleeping well, overworking ourselves. I know I do that like crazy, right?
I mean, I agree with you, and these things are overlooked because, it's funny because they say it's not in the science, but it is in the science. I interviewed Dr. Roger Schwelt of the MedCram channel, and he actually cited some studies about how forgiveness improves people's health. It's funny because one of the very first people I told in April of 2023 was Chris Wark of Chris Beat Cancer. And he said, look, there's really not much you can do with your diet and lifestyle. You've got good exercise habits. He says, you need to just forgive everybody. And that's kind of where I'm working on is up here, the mental, emotional, spiritual stuff. And, and not that I'm neglecting the other stuff, because I
No.
greatly increased my exercise when I was diagnosed, because I was told there's some evidence that even more vigorous daily exercise is supposed to be very good for, when you have cancer. So I'm doing that. And yeah, it's this daily process of just trying to do a little bit better
And
each day.
you're doing great. So what I'm wondering, what types of exercises are you doing that help? And any tips for those of us who are still working on like letting go of things and forgiving?
Oh gosh, I mean, hopefully one day I'll have the answers to help people. And I can only tell them what worked for me. And that's why I'm doing the series Thriving in the Face of Cancer. So again, whether it's forgiveness, meditation, exercise, the best one is the one that you'll actually do. And that's the truth. And the thing is I know everybody says you got to do strength training, you got to do some diversity, but it's not going to happen. And so I do the same thing every day. I spin on a bike at the highest level I can that day for as long as I can, minimum of an hour, working, some days going an hour and a half, because I'll do it. And isn't it more important to do that than to not do it because I didn't get to this class or do this video? So do what you'll do. And I would say do what you enjoy, but I don't really enjoy exercise. So what I do is I link it with something I enjoy more. So that's when I'm on the spin bike, because I'm standing, I can lean forward and I'm playing words with friends and I'm playing Wordle. And I've got like 3 people that I play Wordle with every day, and we're sending each other our Wordle score. So by the time I'm done playing my games, the spin session is over.
Yeah, and I mean, you're obviously doing things right because I do feel a shift in you. Like I do feel like since you came out with this video, I don't know if it's just me, but I do notice a difference. Not that there's anything wrong at all in your previous videos, but I just noticed like this, I don't know, you just seem more light and happy and just
Well, I've been carrying a
peaceful and just like you're glowing and it's like you're just radiating love and I feel like you can feel the love and it's just nourishing you and I love it.
Well, it's hard when you carry a secret like that for actually, more than 2 years, because even before the first diagnosis of stage one, 6 months before that, they found the spots on my lung and liver. And right then I kind of was like, oh, this can't be good. They said not to worry, but I'm like, oh, why are these spots? And so I was already worried. So, we're talking like, more than 2 years. And it was just a tremendous release because, there's an old saying, a burden shared is a burden halved. And I'm meeting like the most amazing people now. Like, my world was getting a little bit small and not that there's anything wrong with having the same group of friends, but I'm meeting people from all walks of lives that have been touched by cancer that want to tell their story. And I'm just grateful that God gave me the opportunity to do that, with a channel that people apparently are watching, and it gets me up in the morning, whereas like, after all these years teaching weight loss, it was like, oh my God, how much more can I say about calorie density? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And not that
absolutely.
that wasn't important and I can still talk about it, but I mean, survivorship is to me the most inspiring thing because look, not everybody with cancer survives, but some do. And let's find out what they did and let's do that, And I feel like there's something in all the survivors, and that's the piece that's right here. This elusive, this mind, there's something about like hope, and I feel like faith is a big part, and in the plant-based world we're not really allowed to talk about faith because there's so many people that are non-believers, and that's cool. I don't care, believe what you want, but I feel like that is a big part of healing. And if it wasn't, then why does every hospital have chaplains?
True. And I love how you're going with the flow, and this is just the best way to use this energy to create videos about this because this is what you're going through. This is your purpose right now. This is what you're passionate about, and you can help so many other people with this. And you're really going with the flow and open to the present and to the future rather than resisting that, holding in the secret. holding on to the past and just doing the same types of videos. You know what I mean? It's just
It was
bravo, Chef
Well,
AJ.
thank you. And again, some of the people that advised me said it probably wouldn't be a good idea and people would make mean videos and it might hurt veganism. But when I was at True North this last time, there was an Episcopalian church right across the street. And so I'll go to any place of worship. I don't feel like I have landed on a particular faith other than I am faith-based. And so I went there and I had like appointment with the minister there and she said, having the secret is killing you. It's like she literally said that, because I said, well, should I tell people? I've been advised so she helped me come out. If yeah, come out. That's so funny.
But yeah, what would you say to somebody watching right now who's maybe holding in a secret, whether it's with a health condition or with something else that's sort of weighing on them like that?
Yeah, I'd ask them how that's working for them, because people have the right to keep secrets, of course, but I feel like you say, I became so much lighter just to be able to release it. And like you say, all the love and the support came and from doing it. And yeah, I think it was a good decision. I mean, it's made my life even busier. I cannot keep up with the amount of emails and texts and things I'm getting, and I'm doing my best. But overall, it was, I think, a great decision because I know for a fact there are people in our plant-based movement right now that have had cancer that won't tell because they're
Mhm.
worried or that have it right now. If it's working for you, keep the secret. But I feel like when you go through things alone, they're just much harder. And I had somebody in the plant-based world, and I'm not going to say this person's name, and they had cancer and they decided to do nothing conventional. And they're like telling me to do what they did. That's the thing. If I were you, I would blank. If you were me, you'd do what I do because you're me. That's what people don't understand. And I think people don't understand that just because, going to the Andes or Peru worked for your brother-in-law for his particular type of cancer, cancer is not one disease the way appendicitis is. You know what I'm saying? And like appendicitis, if you go into an emergency room, pretty much you're going to get treated the same way. They're going to give you maybe antibiotics, they're maybe going to do surgery, they're going to do both. But with cancer, it can affect just about any body part. There's a variety of stages. And even with drugs, people respond differently. So there's not one way to do it. But this person was saying to me, like, you shouldn't be going to support groups. They're for the dying. Well, first of all, we're all dying, okay?
True.
Every day. Every day. It's just a matter of when. But I find the opposite because once I heard the statistic that people in support groups do better and live longer, yes, sometimes there's a bit of sadness. I mean, right now in the groups I'm in, none of the members have died. And sometimes when people get better, they don't always come back. But most support groups usually have what's called advocates. And that's somebody that has survived. And what I've noticed is that even if people that have cancer survive don't want to come on my show, I have found that they are always willing to talk to you. It's like there's something that happens when you're a survivor that you just want to help people, if for no other reason to inspire them or give them hope or hear that story. And so a lot of people I know now that have cancer, like Francis, who's going to be on my show, 17-year lung cancer survivor. I mean, he still has his life and his job, but he's made this his life mission to be an advocate. And I mean, if without going to these groups, how would I ever have met? I wouldn't have
Yeah.
met him on the street. And
No.
the thing that's nice about support groups is, yes, people have situations and they have difficulty and stuff, but they're going through something that you're going through. And so if you keep it a secret, I mean, again, there's difference between keeping it a secret, like, and not telling your YouTube audience than not telling anybody
Yeah.
because support groups are confidential. I mean, they're supposed to be. Obviously, people do what they do. But if you go to your local hospital support group, there might be 6, 8 or whatever people, or they have these on Zoom, if you don't tell anybody, I think it's going to be a lot harder to get help. And so again, it's a personal decision. And I think at the time I made the best decision I could, but I knew it was eating away at me because especially because just who I was as a YouTuber, I didn't really hide stuff. Like when
No.
I had a cast on my hand, I'm like, not a cast, a brace. I have sugar thumb. It was like, ooh, it's so embarrassing. So I feel like I think you can help more people by
Yeah.
being authentic and transparent. But again, people have the right to privacy too. And it's what, some people would like just rather die than tell, I suppose.
Yeah. And were you nervous when you first started telling people? Because you are such a public figure, right? Were you thinking, oh, could like somebody could maybe betray you, right? Before you had
Yeah.
told
Well, they
your
already
YouTube
did.
audience. They
Well,
did?
I don't want to say betray me, but here's a well, just since I'm telling everything. So I took a 6 month coaching course, Food Revolution
Hmm.
coaching course, and there's I think several thousand people in the course if I remember, and we would have these Zooms every week, and they would do coaching. And so I had asked for coaching early on and about whether or not I should come forward with this, because I was struggling with that. And so the head coaches they work with you, and then the other people watch. Well, it was supposed to be confidential. And the next thing I know, my phone is blowing up with text messages like, "Oh, I'm so sorry you have cancer." And I'm like, "Well, how do
Oh
you know? I
no.
didn't tell anybody." "Oh, well, so and so in the Food Revolution course told me." And that kind of made me a little
Yeah.
bit upset because the people in that course, they were healthcare professionals, some of them like nurses and nurse practitioners
Wow.
that were betraying this confidence. And it's like, you're going to be a health coach and you're already like running to the press about this. So I don't want to say betrayed, but I felt like, oh, that's not good. And so that's another reason I wanted it to be my decision to come out rather than having somebody else who heard through these channels make a video about me. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Then people might feel too like, oh, you betrayed us. You didn't tell us. And I'm so glad you came out how you did. And I'm glad you go to those support groups because
I
it's like,
love that. I mean, so far I love them, especially when they have snacks because then I mean, we don't eat every time, but I can bring the really healthy snacks and try to influence people. I do feel though sometimes, and and right now I'm talking to you, you're beautiful, you're kind, I love talking to you, but I have bad days. It's just that I don't turn the camera on those days, I mean, maybe I could some point, when I have these, and it's usually when I've just seen the oncologist, the doomsday lady, doom and gloom. Those days can take a couple of days to recover from. So, it's a process. What can I tell you?
it must just be a real huge mix of all the emotions, right? I'm sure it must, I'm assuming anger in there too. Or
I'm
no.
trying to think anger. Well, yeah, I mean, I did feel like a little bit the Be Vegan diet betrayed me, and I'm like, hey, I wouldn't have, if I knew I was going to get cancer, I wouldn't have eaten so damn much kale. So I did kind of feel that way at first. And I'll tell you, one of the plant-based doctors, and he's a man of faith. He called me after the live and he said, God's just using you for a different reason now, and just go with it. And that made me feel real good about that. That
That's how
I
I
like
feel.
when people I like what great I love when people put a positive spin on things. So yeah, there's lots of emotions, but it's supposed to have lots of emotions, which I learned from watching that movie Inside Out and Inside Out too. My problem is I spent most of my life suppressing all the sad and negative ones, which now I'm finally dealing with as a 65-year-old woman.
Like suppressing your emotions and stuff, you'd suppress things.
Pretty much, I think so, or just especially anxiety, just like, trying to push things away, and it didn't work for me long term. Eventually they're going to come out, and so yeah, it's like they say, the only way out is through. So, but it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. None of this is easy.
No, no.
I don't think life is easy. Like whoever said it was going to be easy or whoever said it was going to be fair. One thing my mom did for me as a service growing up, she would always say, life isn't fair, so get used to it. And then to her, I would say, yes, but that is not fair. That life, that life isn't fair. So yeah,
Yeah, it's no, it's not easy. You're right. Sometimes I just wish God would come down with a rule book and be like, you should do this, this will fix this, this is how we should eat. And I know like I'm so happy, like I've said a couple times, to see you overwhelmed with love. I know there are still like this small amount of people out there who think like, well, it's the plants, right? We shouldn't be eating this way. Eat some meat. Maybe you need some meat. Have you at all,
yeah.
like I'm curious, have you at all thought through this diagnosis, like at all in any of the possibility? Because I know some people are wondering that maybe there's something in there we're missing and that may like I don't think so, but I'm just
Well,
asking, like, has
well,
it crossed your mind? Is there something I'm missing from some animal products? Has it at all crossed your mind?
never. It's funny because even if there was, and I can't wait, I'm glad you said that because then I can ask people like Dr. Joel Furman, is there ever a case to eat those? Because I'm an ethical vegan, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to like no, I'm not going to do it. It was hard enough for me to start eating some of the more calorically dense things that I've been avoiding for years because ever since my weight loss. So no, I mean, I'm not going to do it. Now, I know that there are people that have when people eat a crap diet, whether it's animal based or plant based, and they stop eating crap, meaning processed food, they're going to show some improvement. And so that's just the way it is. So as far as, there are some people that have recovered from cancer and that have eaten animal products or done things like that. But again, I never think it's just one thing. People keep thinking it's
Mm.
just one thing, and it's not. And I almost wish that like there was like I guess maybe I can make this a job. Like that when you get diagnosed with cancer, you get like a cancer concierge, like somebody that's been there, that's done that, that like, you get assigned to them, kind of like, when I think about like what heaven might be like you get I don't know, you go in the pearly gates and then they give you an angel and I don't know what it's like, but I'm hoping it's like that. And they kind of like, they show you around and they give you a dog and something like that. But somebody that could be like there for you from the very beginning. There's supposed to be people like that at the hospital. I call them nurse navigators, but they don't really hold your hand. But I'm thinking, wouldn't it be cool, like if you had somebody to hold your hand through the process, like from the beginning, to make it less scary, like, and just say, kind of like the
Hmm.
chaplain, when I got done with my lung biopsy, the chaplain showed up immediately and held my hand and basically said, "You're going to be okay." And the thing is even if you're not going to be okay, you sure want to hear that you're going to be okay. You know what I mean? I don't think it ever helps to hear that you're not going to be. When they start talking about statistics and how long I'm going to live, I leave the room. I say, I don't want to hear
Good.
that. I
Yeah.
don't want to hear anything negative. If my husband wants to hear it, I go, you are not to tell me any statistics or anything like that. Um,
Smart.
I'm not going to
Smart.
hear it because then it gets into your subconscious and your psyche and you start believing it. And I'm not going to, whatever they
You're
say, I'm not
so
going to
right.
believe.
Because even so, the closest person to me in the world has stage 4 right now. And, I don't like how they've heard all those things. They put all there's this amount of time to live, this many months, and all this. I'm just like, I wish we didn't even hear these things. And like you said earlier in the beginning, like a lot of people have gone through this, whether it's themselves or somebody close to them that they know going through it. So, do you have any advice for people if maybe they're not going through it, but they're close to somebody who's just been told they have it, like how they should handle it with that person, or
Mm.
even if they're diagnosed, like with the experience you have, any advice for them?
Well, I would first ask them if they even want your help, you know? You know what I mean? And I think I would tell them you're here for them and you love them and let them know rather than just putting your opinions on them. You know what I mean? Like it's never helpful to tell people what they should do in general, not just with cancer. Nobody likes to be shoulded on. You know what I mean?
No, never. You're right. Exactly.
Yeah.
No,
It's
no.
it's never helpful. And
Hmm.
gosh, now when I think about it, like I mean, when I think about people I know that told me they were, I mean, I feel like, God, I really wasn't there for that person. Like, I guess I never realized the magnitude of this disease and this diagnosis. And so I'm showing up differently in my life and in other people's life now, and part of that is slowing down and paying
And now you're
attention.
going to get through this. I have a feeling you're going to get through this and then look at the level of compassion and look at how much you can help people going forward, right? And do you think, like, because you're such a positive person, so I'm sure you do have an answer to this. Do you think there has been a big blessing in all of this? Are you able to see a blessing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Because and it sounds so trite, but I do appreciate things so much more. Like every day that I wake up and I'm not dead, I'm like, I literally wake up and I'm like, ooh, I'm not dead. I mean, I say it that way because the humor is what's getting me through. I don't, instead of saying I'm still alive, I'm like, I look around, I'm like, oh, I'm not. Because, when I am
Yeah.
dead, when I am actually dead, I'm probably going to look around and it's going to look different, right? So I do appreciate that. And also people also it's allowing me to like really do what I want to do in life. And the thing is gosh, if there's a lesson in this, and Dr. Lyle is going to be speaking about this specifically. He talks about how maybe not you, you're a lot younger, but people our age in our 60s, we have maybe 100,000 hours left, and how we should never spend them with people we don't want to be with or doing things we don't want to do. And too many people, when I think about like people that when I used to do coaching, they were so unhappy with their jobs and they were just waiting until that retirement date. And they were so unhappy with their marriage, but they were just waiting for the kids to graduate high school. Today is all you have. If you're not happy today, do something about it today. And of course, I'm not telling people to just immediately leave their husbands or quit their job, but have a session with Dr. Doug Lyle. Let him explain to you the urgency of this and of being happy now. because you can't wait for someday maybe. There's a saying, I love it. The road to someday leads to never. And so now I'm doing what I really want to do, which is comedy. That's what I always wanted to do. And unfortunately, I don't live in LA anymore where I can do all these wonderful in-person classes. But I mean, I just take every improv class I can online or any stand-up class, and I'm just doing what I really love. And I'm doing this YouTube series because I love it and I want to do it. I'm not doing it, for views or income or money. I'm doing it because I genuinely love it because it helps me to hear these stories. I mean, in a way, it's kind of selfish because when I hear a survivor story, it makes me think, well, maybe I can too. And it's the same thing, whatever it is in life that you're trying to do, find somebody that already did it and know that it's possible. So yeah, I really feel like I'm living my life more in Technicolor now.
And there's so many survivor stories. Like even I'll link your videos down below that you did, or I'll put one on the screen at the end of this video. Even if you go through the comments, there's so many inspiring survivor stories out there, right?
Yeah.
One after the other. Even people with stage four. I know so many people. And I'm wondering, like, what's gone through your head through this whole process? Have you thought, because especially in our world, there's many because people do first think, well, obviously there's the forgiveness and this internal, all of that and the exercise, but there's just so many different like healing modalities you could take, right? There's like the water fasting, which I think you did. I want to talk about a little bit. There's Hippocrates. You could do a green juice only fast. You could do no fruit. You could do only fruit. You could do the grape cleanse. Like it's kind of whoa, right? Like which path do you take, or do none of it? Have you considered any of those?
I've considered all of them, but I feel like a holistic approach, at least for me and maybe for others, is going to be best because I'm not saying that you can just go to True North or Hippocrates and get healed. You might be able to, but I find that when people do what they call all the healing factors, they do better. And by the healing factors, I mean everybody's healing factors are going to be different. I can show you mine that I have written down, but right when I was diagnosed, because I didn't have an oncologist and I didn't have a support. I was really lucky to find this lady who's also in the cancer series, Liz Curran, and she is a radical remission coach. And there's a doctor named Dr. Kelly Turner who wrote a book called Radical Recovery and Radical Hope, where she studied cases of spontaneous remission. I think something like 1,500 cases where people who had diseases like cancer just got better. And they studied them to figure out what they all had in common. It turned out there were 10 healing factors. And one of them was diet, but believe it or not, it wasn't all of them weren't on a vegan SOS-free diet. It was a change of diet to a healthier diet. Exercise was one of them. And so for me, when I took I studied several classes with her. She was my coach. For me, it was the one that I was the one that the weakest link is the one you have to work on the most. So if diet was your strongest thing, maybe going for a juice cleanse or a water fast isn't going to be what's going to take you to the ultimate health next level.
Wow,
You
that
might
just
want to do
clicked
the
with
harder
me.
things.
That is good. That is so true, right? And I think just so much we think, okay, well, got to get more extreme with the diet. Well said. Like I really had an aha moment there.
Yeah, I sometimes think that maybe in my case, getting less strict, but doing these other things. So I have these are my pillars, the 7 foundations for thriving in the face of cancer. And I typed it up really big so that every day I can remember to include some of these in every day. And they're faith, family, fitness, foods, forgiveness, friends, and fun. And the thing is I was just not having fun before. I mean, I was working so much because, I was just so driven, I want to make sure I have enough money for retirement and but I wasn't having any fun in my life. And, for some people, fun might not be one of their pillars. You have to find your pillars, right? You need to find your pillars. And for me, like, it's all about having fun now. If it's not fun, I don't want to do it, pretty
I
much.
love that. And like I said,
Yeah.
I notice I can see that you're having fun now. I can see it in your videos. I can see it in you.
Yeah. Thank you. And like,
Amazing.
it's funny because faith, oh, this is such an interesting topic because I'm not trying to be like the poster child for any religion. I was born Jewish. I don't have an actual religion that I'm identifying with, but I love the fact that I feel a faith based. I am a faith. I always believed in God, but I never had time for it. You know what I mean? I mean, I can't go to church or synagogue because I work those days. I work Saturday and Sunday, and not even realizing that there's other days you can go or there's services online now. But, okay, well, there's an old joke. What do you call an atheist in a coffin?
What's that? I don't know.
someone all dressed up with no place to go. And so so one of the things I learned, again, I haven't talked to every single survivor or every single person with cancer, but I'm in enough of these groups now. And what I hear from people that are survivors, whether it's 2 years or one gentleman in my group, 40 years, is it was their faith that got them through.
Absolutely.
So I don't know how people go through this alone, whether it's, alone meaning without like a support person or they call them caregivers. In my case, it would be my dog and my husband, or without faith. And so, again, you can't legislate faith just like you can't legislate kindness or a good diet. But when you have it, you'll know, and it makes all the difference in the world. Like my friend gave me this palm cross to take into the procedure with me. And so I'm holding this, and then people that see it, like they recognize you, like they're whatever you will call it, believers, and they start talking to you in like a different kind of more meaningful way. And when I was going into the place to have the biopsy, they said they tried to take it from me. I said, well, he goes or I don't. They go, well, it's not sterile. I go, here, we'll sterilize it. They just left it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was
good. I
it's
love
just
that. I think you sent me the link for that, right? I'm gonna get one of
I'll buy
those.
you one. Now that you have a US address, I'm just going to send you one. I've been getting these for everybody, but it just fits in your hand. I actually even use it. I'm a little bit afraid to fly, not terribly, but enough. And I don't know. I like I like visual representations of things. It just
See,
helps
like,
me, you
look
know.
at all these positive changes that have taken place because of this.
Yeah, no, it's
Seriously.
good. I mean, believe me, I don't really love it at the end of the day,
No,
but
I know.
I love, my mom always said, if you're being run out of town, get in front of the crowd and make it look like a parade. So it was just her way of saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Because I mean, what choice do I have? Just to like, just wither away and die because I mean, there are days that I want to do that, but again, it really tests your resilience of having something like this.
And right now, like, are you big into the future too? Like creating, I know right now when we're filming this, it's New Year's Eve, and my daughters and I are gonna do vision boards after. We've been
I
talking
do a
about it
vision
for
board. That's what I do every New Year's Eve is a
no
vision board.
way.
So,
I
so
love
yeah,
that.
I've been doing that because I don't want to be out on the road with all the people like, drinking alcohol and
Me
crashing
too.
their car. I always create a vision board on New Year's Eve. And this year is going to be a very powerful one because it's going to be based, of course, on health and those are the things. Yeah, I was focusing too much on two F's that were not on this list. I was focusing on finances a lot, because I was always worried about money. And what was the other F that I was focusing on? What else starts with F? Oh, I forget.
I don't know, Chef
We know a
AJ.
lot of things that start with F, but finances and
Finances,
no,
I
what
don't
was I
know.
focusing on? Too much working and not enough.
Working. So are you
It,
balancing that more now? Are you
oh my
taking like a
gosh.
day off a week or something?
Yeah. Well, yeah, my life was out of balance. And I think, you know what, I honestly, again, to a lot of people, this is woo-woo, but I think any disease caused from a lack of imbalance.
Me too. I believe that too. And stress, like, stress. I believe that too.
Yeah. So, I don't know if I'm working less, but I'm working differently because I'm really inspired to do what I'm doing. However, what's I guess I don't know, suffering is the word, is I just can't get to every email anymore. Something had to I would spend hours trying to get through every email every day. I do need to get some kind of personal assistant maybe to help me with that, but it's like I just have to let certain things go. Oh, and what here, hey, those of you that say you don't have enough time to do everything, get off social media. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't watch me and Jillian on YouTube because I don't consider YouTube social media
Mhm.
because you don't have to be a subscriber or a user. You could just come on our channel anytime and watch. But I knew that when I came out, there might be some people that would say unkind things about me. And because I'm sensitive, I just said I can't go anymore. So I can't check Facebook, I can't check Instagram, and I can't check the YouTube comments. And it's unfortunate because I missed the kind ones, but that was how I had to protect myself. However, when there are kind ones, Linda, my virtual assistant, is telling me, but I got to tell you, when you don't spend time on social media, you have so much more time to do other things so that you can have your fitness and your fun and your friends and family. You just get more time when you don't do that. And unless you really enjoy it. But do people really enjoy it?
Mhm.
Oh, there was, every now and then there's like an unkind comment, but that I can handle because we can handle it with humor. Usually we just
Mhm.
block the person so they can't post anymore. But I
Yeah.
had posted I had posted and I try to like include everyone. So even though, there are people that aren't believers and I don't want them to think like all my posts are going to be faith-based now, but I thought it was fun and funny when they took the bandage off and there was a purple cross on my back.
I
I
saw
thought
that.
that was hilarious. And so I wrote the post in a very funny way saying, for all you believers, Jesus had my back. And if you don't believe, the surgeon was playing high stakes tic-tac-toe, just to try to make fun. So somebody wrote, well, if he had your back, how come you got cancer? And we deleted the comment and blocked the person.
Wow.
But it was like, ooh, I probably should have said, well, boy, you're somebody that really needs to believe then, like,
Yeah.
so trying to have more compassion for people and really, what I'm really trying to do, because we've talked about some people that are not so kind in the past. We've talked privately about that. So, people keep saying they have to be hurting because, there's an old saying, hurt
Mhm.
people, hurt people. Why would somebody be unkind? Especially like somebody that has cancer, like unless they were hurting, why would they be unkind? I can't imagine like intentionally being unkind to somebody, whether a human or animal. So I don't know.
It's hurt when you're hurting inside, when you're hurting and angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where Dr. Doug helps me. If I'm hurting inside or angry, we share the same therapist who you have Dr. Doug Lyle on a lot. And obviously, I'll link your channel down below. Everybody go watch all the
I
videos.
love him. He's
He
just
is,
he tells it like it is, and some people don't like that, but he really understands things not just from a human perspective, but from one of evolutionary psychology, and he understands why we do what we do. And yeah, he's been enormously helpful to me.
and he's like a life coach. He's the only therapist I've ever had where I feel way better at the end of the call. I can call him and be bawling and going through just the most traumatic, worst thing ever. By the end of the call, I'm laughing, I'm happy, I'm like praising him. Thank you so much. He's just so life changing. And
The other thing I just want to say about him is, unlike therapy, that for many people could take many years and many sessions, if you have a specific problem, your boss at work, your neighbor, it can be a one and done. He's that good at fixing problems.
he absolutely is. And I want to ask you, like, people watching or everyone out there, like, how can we support you? How can people support you right now?
Well, thank you. I mean, you are just by, just by not saying mean stuff about me. No,
No,
I
of
mean,
course.
everybody's been so kind and just be kind, not just to me, but be kind. And being kind includes being kind to animals. And I think the kindest thing you can do to animals is to not eat them. And the kindest thing you could do for our planet is to not eat animals. So I guess that's going to be my motto for 2025. Be kind.
I love that. And I wish I could give you a hug right now. It's hard through the computer, but one day maybe in real life. But
Yeah. Well,
okay,
no, I'm coming to Disney World. I don't know when.
good.
Somebody gave me this card and it sits on my desk, and because I'm a bling. You could see. Look at this scarf. I'm a bling girl in my these new earrings. Everywhere you go, leave a glitter trail of kindness behind you. So that's what I'm trying to do, is make the world a better place. And when I think about the people that have been mean to us, and we share somebody in common, I'm thinking, how are they do how are they making the world a better place?
Well, and you know
They're
what they say? I watch a lot of these near-death experiences on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen those, like where there's a lot of the same experience where people have like traumatic events and they technically some of them die for a period of time, whether they're in a car accident, this, that, and many of them share like extremely similar life reviews where they say they leave their body, they get enveloped with like a big white light of love. They go to the other side, they say they connect with God and they have a life review. Like so many of them seem to experience like the same type of situation. And I really personally believe in this. I respect what everybody believes in. But they say when you have this life review after we leave this life as this avatar, as this person we are, we experience everything from the beginning to the end of our life from our perspective and the other person's perspective on how we made them felt and feel in every situation. So
Oh God.
sometimes if I'm thinking of, "Oh, I'm not perfect, I've made mistakes where I've hurt people," I try and think of that, right? And how can I have a good life review and make a good impact? Because I really do think that that'll happen right one day. We will have a life review and we'll go through all of this.
That's funny because we are two peas in a pod, because many years ago I saw a movie called Afterlife, and I don't know if you can watch it anymore. It was a Japanese movie in an artsy theater, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful movie. And the premise is that when you die, you have this life review, like you're sitting there, and it's almost like somebody said that VCRs and were created from the afterlife, that like this already existed there, right? And then we took that technology here. And so you're watching your life review, and then whoever the person is with you, I don't know if it's a guardian angel or just a person at this way station, has you watch your life review, and they say, okay, now pick one memory, and now that's what you're taking into the afterlife. And in this particular movie, there were people that were stuck because they couldn't pick a memory. And I have done shows before with people that are in their hundreds, and I've said, if you could only have one, what memory would you take with you? And it's always something kind of simple. It's not like, well, I won the Academy Award. Not that I ever interviewed an Oscar winner, but it was almost like, the day my daughter was born, the day I got married. It was like the simplest memories. And, I think about that because if I'm going to go through a life review, I don't want to have to go through the pain even then of hurting people. And it's like, God, I'm not perfect. I mean, I really do try to do better, but that does weigh on me when I am doing something unkind. It's like in the moment, I'm like, shit, this is going in my life review, like I can't take it
Yeah,
back.
me
So
too. I'm good. I've
I
had some
think
bad
about that all
moments.
the time. But I'm not quite there yet I mean, I am still afraid to die like right now or soon
Mm,
because it is so unknown and I just don't want to experience pain. That's the thing. I don't
mhm.
like things like even going to the dentist and it's like that's I think with cancer and lung cancer, I think the thing that scares me most is the potential for pain and suffering. And and I don't want that, physical pain and suffering, let alone mental. And that's also the fear of the unknown. But you hear from some of these survivors that have had cancer 4 times and they're just like kicking. So, I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like that it is the fact that it's beatable by anybody means that there's a chance that it's beatable for everybody. And again, not every, it's so, it's like, this has forced me to grow up, basically,
Mm.
very quickly, very quickly.
And is there a memory that comes to mind? Like if you have to think off the top of your head, like so far in your life, because I've thought about this too. If
Mm.
you want to share, and if it's private, then but I
Probably, I
mean
mean,
any like
my wedding day was
mm,
one of them that comes to mind, and just anything with one of our dogs. It's just so anything with my family, because that's really what's important is that,
yeah.
and yeah, and I think to go back to an earlier question, and again, this is I think what I want to drive home for people. They don't wait until you get cancer or another disease to live the life you want to live. Live it now, and Dr. Lyle basically gave me permission. Well, he gave me permission that before, but he said it's even more crucial now that you don't spend a day doing something you don't want to do with people that you don't want to do it with, especially for money.
Oh, I love that. That hits home. And when we're doing things we won't don't want to do and saying yes all the time too, I think that can get us into trouble with our health, and get us out of balance. Sometimes up until recently, I became more conscious of it. Always saying yes, trying to make everybody happy and then it's just like at the end of the day, you're not taking care of yourself, right?
Yeah. I thought of the other F. I was living my life upset, just too much focused on fear and finances. And I
Hmm.
realize now you can't have both fear and faith, at least not at the same time, not in the same moment. It's not possible.
Yeah, I would say I've noticed. I think you're living more love-based now, not fear-based.
Yeah,
Because they
absolutely.
say that's how we live everything in our life. Every thought or every choice we make is comes from fear or from love. And I can tell you're operating from love.
I'm
So there's nothing more
really
powerful than that frequency, right?
I'm really trying not to be an asshole. And sometimes my buttons get pushed. So
I get
people,
it.
stop pushing them. Stop pushing them. I'm just kidding.
I get it. And you know what? You're going to get through this. You know what? I'm going to put you on my vision board tonight. You're going to have a little
Um,
corner of radiant, perfect health, and you're going to get through this. I know you're going to get through this.
no,
And
I can
one day
I can,
when you are going to accomplish so much more over the next 35 years or however many years it's going to be. And then one day, since we're all going to go and we're all going to meet God and go to the other side one day, way in 50 years or whatever it is, I've actually never thought about this for myself, but I'm curious for you. What do you want to be known for? What would you want to be known for?
God, what do I want to be known for? God, it's funny. The first thing that came to mind is she was so funny. She was hilarious.
That's a
You
fact. You are.
And it's funny because not in a morbid way. I just started writing my own eulogy, and the reason is I want to control the media. I want to control the
Are you?
content.
I love it. Are you
No, really,
serious?
yeah, because but I wanted to be so funny, and I called my comedy teacher, and I said, look, you gotta. I said, listen, Carrie. He was the first person I called because, as you know, when you're diagnosed with cancer, you always call your stand-up comedy teacher first. I said, Carrie, if, I mean, I don't know when I'm going to die and I hope it's not soon, but I want you to read this, because you'll be able to perform it. Funny, when I went to my Uncle Jerry's funeral many years ago, he knew he was going to die. He was in his, almost 90, and he wrote the most hilarious eulogy for himself that his son read. And what happened was, is it gave people at the funeral permission to laugh and not be sad. Because I don't even know if I want a funeral, but if there is one, I sure don't want people to come around and just be sad. If they're going to gather, I want them to gather and laugh. And so I only have the first line, which is, dearly beloved, you are gathered here because I'm dead. You know, that's all I've got so far. But yeah, and I think about a saying, and I probably won't get it 100% right, but something about sometimes we have to be willing to give up the life that we were living to live the life that we're meant to live. And this is what happens in life. And you've seen people all over the place, with things like that, they have these terrible accidents or things happen, and here's the thing. It's like I feel like the universe is always conspiring to help us. And so they'll give us a little bit of nudge and they'll nudge us and then we don't do it. And then they'll just smack us over the head until we do what we're supposed to do. So I feel like, overall it was a good thing, but it was a wake up call. But it doesn't have to be a death sentence necessarily, or at least not right away. I wish I could look into a crystal ball and have more faith that I'm going to live longer, but I want to live my life well rather than longer. And that's what a lot of the oncologists don't understand. It's like, why would I want to do this? I'm going to feel terrible for so many weeks and months and maybe have these permanent side effects. Like, I want to experience the joy of living more than I want to experience the fear of dying.
Wow, beautiful. Well, you're doing everything right. And I want to ask you too, has there been through all of this any life-changing book you've come across or anything? Because I know you're probably like watching stuff that's hilarious. Any
Everybody,
hilarious movie you want to recommend too?
yeah, well, so everybody's sending me a book, which I appreciate, but if you do it Audible, I'm not gonna be able to read all these books. So what book has made the most difference to me right now? Oh my gosh, I'm listening to so many. I wish I had this question in advance to prepare for because I'm the one book. I want to think about it and get back to you, have you put it in the show notes because I
Yeah.
know I'm gonna have some great book recommendations and movie recommendations for sure. But I just like listening to positive stuff. Like the thing that I've been listening to because it's easier when things are 20 minutes than when they're 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
I just started with a podcast called Daily Hope by Pastor Rick Warren, and
Mm,
I like it because I like when things have a little bit funny bent to them, because he has a good sense of humor. It makes it easier for me to enjoy those kind of things. But anything with the word hope in it is has been wonderful for me. So
mhm.
Daily Hope,
I love that. I'm going to look that up. And I just want to say too, because I know we talked about this on WhatsApp a little bit, but like essentially none of us are off limits. Like this could even I think, I don't know if you know any, but this can even happen to raw vegans, right? Because I know we have a big raw vegan niche on this
Oh
channel
my
too. Like
God.
it's not all the food, right?
I don't know if I can say the person's name, but a very prominent person in because I was raw for a couple of years in 2003, and this person died of pancreatic cancer within 3 months, and their diet couldn't be any more pristine. So
Wow.
I mean, your diet, like I say, is your seatbelt, but even with a seatbelt, you can get into an accident. So, and some people actually said, oh, you got cancer because you weren't 100% raw. I
Oh my
really don't
God.
think that tumor, and it's not to
Yeah.
say that I can't try again to be 100% raw or go, on a juice fast. And these are things I may do. The thing is I'm trying really hard not to lose any more weight. And as you know, by looking at your beautiful figure, it's pretty hard to put on weight when you're
I don't
clean.
like to lose too much weight too. I totally get it. Did you, before you were diagnosed, were you losing weight? Was that a symptom or no? Did you start
No,
to
I
lose weight?
wasn't. It wasn't until I was diagnosed, and then that month I dropped 10 pounds. And everybody said, even the oncologists now saying, oh, you can't lose 10 pounds at that point in cancer. I got so
The
anxious
stress, right?
that,
Yeah.
and I feel like my metabolism is, just kind of stayed where it is now. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, I could probably gain a few pounds, and I would be fine. But I'm just happy to be able to keep it where I am right now. But you know,
Yeah.
that's when somebody does a raw food diet that is like lower in fat and clean, it is very hard to put on weight. But I might do some juicing or things
Hmm.
like that. And you know, fasting is hard. Water fasting, I don't know how these people do it for 42 days. I mean, I barely made four twice a year apart. I think it's really hard, but
Water fasting? Yeah.
I feel like it's really hard, but it's not hard for everybody, you know?
No, some people, yeah, some people are just soldiers at that. I don't think I could do it. I did a 2 day dry fast once a few weeks ago, like 48 hours. I found that really easy, but I was like, I'm not going to go longer than that because I don't want to, like, I'm like you, I don't want to lose too much weight. So that's why I haven't done much
So
fasting. But the
you
2 day
did,
dry fast was so easy and I felt incredible. To me, it was almost easier than if I'm drinking water because once I start having something, I just want more, you know?
wow. So I didn't know you could go 2 days without water. Wow.
Oh yeah, if you I'm not advising this, guys, don't do this, but there's some YouTubers like Vegetable Please, he's done like 5 days, more days dry fasting. People do more, but be careful, don't do that. Look into it. Here's your disclaimer. But I
Oh my,
did just 48 hours and I felt incredible. So even just I'm thinking just because the benefits were so great and I tend to sometimes overeat is to just maybe 1 day a week dry fast, you know? I think it's just I don't
wow.
know. It's easy, it was way easier to me
Okay,
than
I'm going to
anything.
ask Dr. Goldhammer is going to be on next week. I'll ask him what his experience is with that. That's interesting.
Yeah, but no, it was interesting to me what you said too about the raw food even like so they passed of pancreatic cancer, was it 3 months from diagnosis to
Yeah,
passing
3 months from
away?
diagnosis. Yeah.
Oh,
And there was another one as well. But you know, I don't know if you've had Brian Clement on your show, but like
yeah, I
he's
have.
well, you know, I don't get like, you know, people say you should go to Hippocrates, and it's like, it doesn't resonate with me to go to a place that's telling me not to eat fruit, but to eat oil. It doesn't make any
Oh
sense
yeah, they do
intuitively.
some oils. That's right. I don't
Yeah.
know. So I went there a couple months ago and I did with him and his wife a whole what they eat in a day and then I ate in the cafe there. So I ate there for like the whole day I was there and I saw the whole campus. And I gotta say, like, I felt incredible because usually I eat fruit and I eat all these things. I felt really good from eating their diet. And what I like there is like they grow everything. They have control of this whole compound. Everything is like picked fresh. The wheatgrass is made, like everything's very fresh. And they have spas there. Have you been there? You've never been
I
there? No.
haven't, but I mean, I've heard some really
Oh,
nice things
oh,
about
it's nice. It's a whole huge compound, beautiful villas on the water, spas. It's really nice.
Wow.
So,
That sounds like
yeah.
almost like a vacation. I did have the chef on the show and Helene, one of their instructors on making the food, but
Mm.
you know, here's the thing. I feel like people also need to also kind of follow their intuition with things. And, you know, what is right for one doesn't mean right for the other. And for me, just intuitively, not eating fruit I mean, not that I even eat that much fruit, but to be not eat fruit sounds kind of sad to never
I
have
know
fruit.
it's funny because fruit too, like fruit is the easiest thing to digest, really, right? It's so easy to digest, so high vibration. I know, I think I'd have a hard time too. I was the person close to me who I was telling you about who has the stage 4, they were going to go there, but they're in Canada. They didn't end up going there because now they can't get proper insurance to even come here to travel. And so I was gonna go there with them for a bit and I was gonna do the experience, but then it didn't pan out. It didn't end up happening. But yeah, I agree with you. Everybody has to do what's right for them and what resonates with them, no matter what that is. Even if that's, oh, I want to go to Italy and I'm just gonna do whatever I want. I'm gonna eat cake or you're gonna do a juice fast. You're gonna eat what you're eating. You gotta do what you want to do.
You know, somebody told me today, my integrative oncology nurse, about some guy, I gotta find his name, where he was diagnosed, I might have been lung cancer, like when he was 65, and he goes, I'm just gonna go to Italy, and like he got better. Like, so I think there is something.
Oh, see,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think doing what you love and doing what you want to do, I think will be of tremendous benefit for people to do that now. Don't wait until you are under the threat of a surgeon's knife or facing a diagnosis. I think that's what the lesson is, you know?
I love that, Chef AJ. Okay, well, this has been incredible. I want to ask if there's anything else that you want to share with the audience, and then let everybody know where they can support you. I know you're a best-selling author. You have so many amazing things. I'll put everything down below as well. And everybody go subscribe to Chef AJ, stay on the updates, and let's just wish her well as well.
Oh, thank you. Well, just my name's Chef AJ on YouTube. That's really where I spend most of my time. I mean, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. The real Chef AJ is Instagram, just regular Chef AJ Facebook. I'm kind of on Twitter, but I don't really go there, but I guess I'm there. And I do shows as much as I can do them at least once a week and sometimes even every day. And yeah, my mailing list, Chef AJ, with send out. I still want to get back to recipes, Jillian, too. I've got all these
Yeah.
recipes I want to do, but it just feels like I had to put that on the back burner now, making oh, I just made a really do you eat the sprouted oats? I know that some raw food people do and some
No,
don't.
but I've been thinking about maybe getting into them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I learned about it from another raw fooder. It's not that like they eat them every day, but when I was making food for them, they said you have to use this brand. But I've got some I've been making because I think when it comes to desserts, the raw desserts are the best
They're
dessert.
even better than the regular. I agree.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
my God. And
oh,
your recipes are
absolutely.
amazing. Have you
The
seen
raw desserts are the best
my
one.
friend Crystal too? She's Crystal Bonnet. Have you seen her raw desserts too? Hers are pretty
Oh,
insane
oh
too.
my!
I'm
But I
just like,
remember, Cafe Gratitude, and they had a cookbook of their raw desserts. Raw desserts are like amazing.
yeah, so many amazing plant foods out there. And any favorite quote to end off with, or any piece of advice?
Oh man, I should have prepared for
No,
this. You're asking
don't
a great
worry. If not,
question.
it's okay.
Piece of advice, just well, my advice is just to be kind, and that includes yourself. Just gosh, I wish I had just
No,
like
you're amazing.
wish
You've
I had
been
prepared. I wish I
amazing.
had the TED Talk prepared, the TED
No,
Talk version of
you've
it.
given a true TED Talk. And do you feel like you've developed more self-love through this experience?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And other love too. And even if it wasn't other love, more other understanding that people are going, I think that people in a lot of ways are doing the best they can. And, cut them some slack, cut yourself some slack. And, just, I guess you just in all things be kind.
And one more thing, have you had any interesting dreams through all of this?
Well, at the beginning, and they scared me. And now I'm
Yeah.
sorry they scared me. So right when I was diagnosed, I had dreams about my brother who died of cancer, and my grandparents were there, and my mother and my dad and my dog. And I thought that meant that I'm dying, and they were like coming to get me. And so I just freaked out. And now I wish that they'd come back because now I would talk to them and like, oh, what are you trying to tell me? So I'm like every day I go to bed like come back. I'm ready now.
Mhm.
I'm not all freaked out. So I think they were trying to comfort me more than trying to like tell me I'm next. But maybe
Yeah.
I am. I don't know. But man, that's where I need some help is like to not be so afraid of dying. And that's where the clergy have helped me. It doesn't matter what their religion is, but when I do see different clergy people, whether it's a Catholic priest or an Episcopalian minister or whatever, they're so not afraid of death. Like they have helped so
Wow.
many people through that and been at the bedside. Like they're really not freaked out about it. I want to be like that. Like,
I
okay, yeah,
admire that because it's not natural. Like we're naturally like more freaked out about it, right? So I really admire when they can reach that level and be like that.
yeah. So anyway, I'm
Yeah.
not quite there yet. I'm still terrified.
Well, no, you're doing amazing. So thank you for everything you shared. You've really inspired me. This has been incredible. And I can just see you just coming to life and just shining and living your best self, feeling your best self, radiating love, radiating happiness, and operating from love and from not fear. And I personally see the changes. I'm sure everyone else does. And everyone, let's send Chef AJ some love because it's working. Let's just send her so much love, overflowing love. Go follow her channel, go support her, buy her books. And I'll put a video on the screen right now of Chef AJ's and another great video. Go watch one of those. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Thank you.